I don't know about you guys, and maybe I've told you guys this before, maybe you figured it out, I don't know. But I'm the type of person that absolutely hates change. I'm someone that just absolutely hates it. I know there are some people out there who hate just monotony and just boring jobs where you're doing the same exact thing every single day. That sounds like a dream come true for me. I mean, I would love just to stay in the rut and have everything just be the same always. I don't know. Maybe I just go too far with hating change, but I don't know if there's anyone out there who just absolutely loves it. I don't know. But it's weird because it seems that change, the ups and downs that we go through in life, change, that's the only thing that remains constant. That's the only thing that remains consistent in our lives. And so when we go through those changes that we will inevitably go through in this life, what we usually try to find something that's consistent, or that we think is consistent, to help us get through those ups and downs, to help us get through, kind of cope with those changes in life. I mean, it can be just ridiculously simple stuff. I mean, whenever you're going through this minor change, I don't know, for me, it's always just helps just to go and get myself a favorite meal that I know is always going to be there. Get the same thing at Taco Bell that I'm always going to get. It's always going to be right there. Just turn on like a favorite TV show, favorite movie, going through a bad time. Just, I know there's something that's always going to be there that I can just flip on. I'll be good. Or if you're going through a crazy crisis, you always have those support groups, your family, your friends that are always going to be there for you no matter what. I mean, when we're going through this life that just has so many changes in it, it just helps for us to have something that's consistent, that we know that's always going to be there for us. And so we have these different things in this world that we can rely on. But unfortunately, no matter what we think, all these things in this world, whether it be simple stuff like food, entertainment, or whether it be friends or family, I mean, the unfortunate truth is that there's absolutely nothing in this world that is truly consistent, that will always be there when the changes of life come our way. I mean, that food or entertainment that we go to, it could change itself. It could all of a sudden be gone. I mean, Taco Bell the other day, what I always got, it wasn't there. Not a good thing. Or, I mean, not to be morbid, but unfortunately, those friends and family, they're not always going to be there for us, because all of us, we're temporary beings. That's just the hard fact of the matter. And so, the changes that we go through in this life, there's nothing in this world that we can consistently rely on, that we can hold true to, that's always going to be there for us no matter what. And let's not think for a minute, because I know we have a quick fix, easy solution to this. Well, let's just rely on ourselves. We can do it. No, we can't. We're not created that way. God's created us in such a way for us to be not independent beings, but dependent beings. We're meant to rely on something. We're meant to have something for us to hold on to get us through these changes that we go through in life. So we can't rely on ourselves. No matter what, we need something to hold on to get us through. But if we're holding on to things in this world, man, we are playing a risky game, because in an instant, those things could be gone. And let me tell you, no one found that out the hard way than Jacob's son Joseph. I mean, Joseph, he had a ton of things in this world that he could rely on when change or bad, or the good or the bad, whatever. He always had something to rely on in this world. Take, for instance, his father Jacob's love. He could always rely on that. I mean, Joseph, he was Jacob's favorite son. And so whenever Joseph was faced with a crisis, whenever there was something going on in his life, he always knew that he was going to have his father in his corner just to get him through whatever. More than that, Joseph also had material possessions. I mean, Jacob gave Joseph this amazing, brightly colored coat. I mean, if you're going to have a bad day, I mean, I'm sure it helped just look down and be like, oh man, look at what I have. I mean, I'm sure that coat literally brightened up Joseph's day whenever he was having a bad day. And Joseph also had this sense of destiny, like with them. He was always having these dreams that at some point, despite the fact that he was one of the youngest sons of Jacob, he always had these dreams that his family would bow down to him and serve him. I mean, what better way to get through your day than, if you're having a bad day, than just to realize, man, it's not always going to be like this. I have this amazing destiny right in front of me. I'm going to have the best life ever. My family's going to bow down to me, serve me. Life's going to be good. This is just a phase. Everything's all going to be good. But then one day, all these things were absolutely taken away from Joseph, because as we've seen from the Jacob and Esau story, man, it never ends well when parents play favorites with their children. It never ends well. And so one day when Joseph was going out to check on his brothers to see that they were tending his father's sheep well, his brothers, they see him off in the distance and they just say, oh, here comes this dreamer. You know what? This is what we're going to do, guys. Let's kill him. Whenever he comes over here, let's kill him. Let's take his coat, just spread some blood on it and just tell our father that wild animal got him. He's so annoying. Let's just get this over with. Well, Joseph gets closer and they just think, well, let's not go all the way there. Let's think about it for a moment. Let's give ourselves time to think. Let's just beat him up. Let's just take his colorful coat and just throw him into an empty well. Then we can decide what to do with him. And that's exactly what they do. They beat Joseph up, strip him of his amazing colorful coat that his father had given him, and just throw him into this empty well. And wouldn't you know it, just at the right time, some slave traders come by and they hatch this brilliant idea. You know what? This is what we're going to do. We're going to solve our problem, and not only that, we're going to profit from it. Let's sell our brother to these slave traders. And so they get their brother out of the well and just ship him off to these slave traders, and they ship him off to Egypt. And then right there, I mean, it's just rock bottom for Joseph. Everything's taken away from him. All of his life's security blankets, they're absolutely gone. He's never going to see his father again. His father certainly can't help him with this situation. He's not around. He has absolutely no possessions. That coat, it's gone. And his dreams, there's no way they're coming true now. I mean, there's no way that he's ever going to see his brothers ever again. Everything that Joseph was relying on, it's gone. It's not there anymore. And so it's at this pivotal moment where Joseph is just going through this worst change that you could possibly imagine. It's in this moment that Joseph decides, well, I have to have something to rely on. I need something to depend on in these darkest moment of my life. You know what? Joseph makes the best decision he could ever make. He decides that in that moment, you know what? I'm going to rely on God. In this crazy change that's going on in my life, I'm not going to depend on myself. I'm not going to depend on anything else. I have nothing else to depend on. I'm going to depend on God. You know what? That decision, it pays off dividends almost immediately. God is with Joseph as he's brought off into slavery into Egypt. He's with Joseph and he helps him be successful in everything that he does. I mean, God helps Joseph gain favor with his master Potiphar, and Potiphar is just so impressed with Joseph that he puts Joseph in charge of everything in his household. And life is just finally looking up for Joseph. Something's finally going right. Well, then Potiphar's wife gets a little handsy. And Potiphar's wife just keeps going over to Joseph and is just like, come to bed with me, come to bed with me. And Joseph's just like, you've got to stop. I mean, yes, my master's withheld nothing from me, but it doesn't apply to you. He's withheld that from me. I am not going to do such a wicked thing in God's sight. Well, Potiphar's wife doesn't like that. And she eventually frames Joseph and just says, oh, he's made unwanted advances towards me. This isn't good. And Potiphar's just had it, and he's just so upset that he just throws Joseph into prison, rock bottom again. And it's like Joseph can't catch a break here. I mean, he has nothing. He's sold into slavery. I mean, he puts his trust in God, and finally things go good for him. I mean, things are looking up. He's found favor with his master, but then he's thrown into jail for something that he didn't even do. I mean, he can't catch a break. And for Joseph, it'd be so simple for him just to say, well, this making God my rock thing, that didn't work out. I guess it's back to the drawing board to figure out something else that I'm going to depend on because I don't know. Now, Joseph didn't do that. In the ups and downs of life, Joseph decided, you know what? I'm going to stick with God. No matter what situation I'm faced with, I'm going to stick by him. And more than that, God stuck by Joseph. Even though Joseph was going through this terrible situation, God didn't leave him. God didn't abandon him. God was still with him, even in the darkest moment of his life. And so Joseph's in prison. And he suddenly comes to face with two other prisoners. He comes to face with Pharaoh's cupbearer and Pharaoh's baker. And they're really stressed out. He comes to them one day and it's just like, what's got you guys down? What's going on? And they just said, oh man, Joseph, we've had these dreams and we have no idea what they mean. And they're really weighing down on us. And Joseph just says, you know what? I know someone who can interpret dreams. God. God is the interpreter of everything. So why don't you just tell me your dreams? And so they tell him his dreams, and Joseph says, this is what God's saying. So he said to Pharaoh's cupbearer, he just says, what your dream means is that you will be released from prison, and Pharaoh will give you your job back as the chief cupbearer. Of course, that's good news to the cupbearer, and I'm sure that the chief baker at this point is saying, yay, what's my dream mean? Bad news. Joseph just says, well, what your dream means is that Pharaoh is going to execute you. I'm sorry. And Joseph's predictions that the interpretations, they come true. The cupbearer is released and is brought back into Pharaoh's service, and the chief baker, he gets hanged. So, into the story for the chief baker. And meanwhile, Joseph, he is just still stuck in prison, forgotten once again, so it seems, until Pharaoh starts having some dreams of his own that are just weighing down on him and bothering him. He calls together all the wise men, everyone that he knows, to help him interpret his dream. No one knows what his dream means. And then suddenly the cupbearer kind of snaps out of it and just remembers, oh yeah, oh by the way, I forgot to tell you, while I was in prison there was this Hebrew, and I remember that I was having a crazy dream and he interpreted it for me and it came true. So maybe this Hebrew, maybe he can interpret your dream. And so Pharaoh just says, oh yeah, let's bring him up here. And so they bring Joseph up, and Pharaoh's just like, hey, can you interpret my dream? And Joseph just says, no, I can't interpret your dream, but there is someone who can. God can interpret your dream. And so Pharaoh tells Joseph his dream, and Joseph says, this is what God is showing to Pharaoh through your dreams. So this is what's going to happen. So in the land of Egypt, you're going to have 7 years of plenty. You're going to have the most food that you've ever had. And it'll be years of abundance for you. It'll be great. But then right after that, there's going to be 7 years of famine, the worst famine the land will ever see. Absolutely no food to be found whatsoever. And so you know what? This is what you should do. This is what the Pharaoh should do. During this 7 years of plenty, You should save up enough food for yourself so that you will have more than enough of what you need when these 7 years of famine come. And Pharaoh is just so impressed with Joseph and his interpretation that God has given through him that Pharaoh just says, is there anyone wiser than this man? You know what, Joseph? I am so impressed with you. I'm going to put you in charge of this project of utilizing these 7 years of abundance to prepare us for these 7 years of famine. I'm going to make you the most powerful man in all of Egypt, second only to me. And so once again, Joseph is on the rise. God's taking care of him, and he's in a good spot. And once again, his interpretations, they come true. The 7 years of abundance came, but this time they're ready for it. They store some food, and then the 7 years of famine come, and they're ready for it. They're prepared. So this is what happens with Joseph. So this famine is hitting all of Egypt. And unfortunately, Egypt's not the only one affected by this famine, but the land of Canaan is also affected, and that's where Jacob and his sons reside. And so Jacob tells his sons, you know what? I've heard that Egypt has a lot of food during this time. Go up to Egypt and buy some food. And they go up, and Benjamin's the only one who stays behind. That's Jacob's youngest son. He doesn't want to lose another precious son from his favorite wife, as he did with Joseph. So he sends his sons up to Egypt. And you know what? Joseph comes face to face with his abusers. I mean, it has to be just an awkward and unpleasant time. Just all these feelings and just memories of the past just come swelling into his brain. And I mean, he never thought that he would see his brothers again, yet here they are. And Joseph, he recognizes his brothers, but his brothers, they absolutely do not recognize him. And Joseph decides to keep it that way. He kind of wants to test his brothers to see if they've truly changed over the years, or if they're still the same rotten people that sold them into slavery. So they come in, and Joseph, he treats them so harshly when they come in. He just says, you guys are spies. And they're just like, hang on a minute. No, we're not. We just want some food. We're 12 brothers. One brother's deceased. Another brother is back at home with our elderly father. We're affected by the famine too. We just want some food. And Joseph's not having any of it. He just says, no, you guys are spies. And you know what? To prove that your story is true, this is what I want you to do. We're going to give you your food, going to send you on your way. But here's the thing. I want you to come back with your youngest brother so that I know that you are telling the truth. And to give them a little incentive to come back, Joseph takes one of his brothers, Simeon, and throws him into prison, and then sends his brothers on his way. So they go back, they have their food, and they explain to their father, look, this food's run out now, we're going to have to go back to Egypt to get more, but here's the thing, we have to take Benjamin with us. And of course, Jacob is ridiculously upset at this notion. It's like, you've already cost me one son. I'm not losing another here. I'm not going to send Benjamin. But they just say, no, we have to do this, or else this guy, he's not going to give us the food. We're not going to be able to see him. We're not going to be able to get Simeon back. I don't know what Jacob's thinking of not having another son with him. I mean, he has a son imprisoned in Egypt. It's like, we need Benjamin. And Jacob just reluctantly says, fine, okay. But let me tell you this. If you don't come back with Benjamin, let me tell you, you are surely going to kill me with grief, so you better bring him back. So they go back. They get their brother Simeon back. They're given more food. They're all set to go. Everything's good. And they're sent on their way. But Joseph, he has one last trick up his sleeve, kind of to see where his brothers are at, see if they've really changed. So he sneaks his silver cup into Benjamin's food sack, and he sends them on their way. And then he calls them back and is just like, wait a minute, I'm missing something. You guys stole something. Come on. And it's like, no, we didn't. We didn't steal anything. What are you talking about? And they open up everyone's food sacks, and sure enough, in Benjamin's food sack is the silver cup that he was saying that he was missing. And they just said, oh, no. You can have we can all be your slaves. Just let Benjamin go, please. And Joseph says, no, that's ridiculous. I'm enslaving Benjamin. I'm enslaving the one who actually did the stealing. And to which Judah just says, no, I will do anything. Take me in my brother's place, please. You don't understand. We have this elderly father. He had 2 children with his favorite wife. One son's long gone, but Benjamin is all my father has left. And if we do not bring him back, our father will surely die. Well, I do not want my father to die. Please, let me be in Benjamin's place. Let Benjamin go back to his father, please. And at this point, Joseph just can't take it anymore. He has just so much emotional stress on him. He can just see that there really is a change of heart in his brothers. And he just says, guys, it's me, Joseph. I'm Joseph, your brother. Which I'm sure at first they're probably freaking out. It's like, we sold you into slavery. We did a really bad thing. But it's like, I'm Joseph, guys. And you know what? Yes, it was a dark, dark time back then, but you know what? I entrusted my life to God, and He has taken care of me. The good times and the bad, God has always been there for me. And more than that, He has used me. He has redeemed this entire situation. The situation of selling me into slavery, what you intended for evil, God redeemed for good. He was able to use me in this famine to save so many lives. He was able to use me to save your lives so that the promise God made to our forefathers may continue, so that we may become a community of people, so that we may become a nation in our own right, so that God's promise to Abraham may be realized. This is what God has been able to do. So you know what? I want to see my father. Come bring my father to me. Live near me in Egypt so that we can become a community of people that God intends for us to be and become a nation. And that's exactly what happens. In the darkest times and the changes that Joseph was facing in his life, Joseph was able to put his trust in God. Joseph was able to entrust his entire life to God. And God was with him. God never left him. God did not forsake him. God was able to work things out for Joseph's good. God was able to use Joseph and make him to be part of something bigger than himself. And that same God that Joseph entrusted his life to is the same God that's pleading with each and every one of us to entrust our lives to Him. God is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. The same God who was with Joseph, who never left him, who did not forsake him, is the same God who will never leave us nor forsake us. The same God who is there to make all things work out for Joseph's good is the same God who is able to make all things work out for our good. I mean, God is a God who is for us and not against us. Yes, we will have troubles. Jesus promised us that we will have troubles in this world. Yes, we will face the most difficult situations that we have ever faced in our entire lives. Yes, things won't go the way that we want them to. Yes, things will happen that we don't expect to happen. But in the middle of all those changes, in the middle of those ups and downs that we go through in our lives, there is one eternal constant who is there with us. God. He will always be there for us. He will always redeem everything that we go through, all those bad things that we go through. He will work out for good. He will work out for the best. God's an amazing God. He's an eternal God. He wants us to entrust our lives to Him, and more than that, He wants us to do that not only so that we will be taken care of, but He wants us to do that so that we can be a part of something bigger than ourselves. When we entrust our lives to God, He will weave our story into his grand story of redemption. We know that nothing in this world lasts forever, but God and his plan and his story, it lasts forever. And when we mesh our story with God's, he's going to make sure that we make a difference, that our lives are transformed for the better, and that he uses us to transform this world, to transform other people's lives for the better. This is what God is offering to each and every one of us. This is what God is pleading with us, to just say, this is what happens when you entrust your life to me. When you give me everything, this is what I can do. I can make great things happen. I can transform your life for the better. I can work out everything for your good, for the good of this world, for the good of others. It might not be what you expect. There may be things that you don't want or that you don't like, but you can be sure that I always have your best in mind. And you can be sure that I love you and that nothing will ever separate you from the love that I have for you. Therefore, let's not entrust our lives to the temporary things of this world, but let's entrust all of our lives to our eternal Father, who loves each and every one of us, who wants what's best for us, who can do immeasurably more than all we could ask or imagine, according to his power that is at work within us. Let's pray.